The National Grid is an energy company that provides electricity to millions of people in the UK. It ensures that electricity can be transmitted to meet the demand for power anywhere in the UK. It works by taking electricity generated from sources and transports it through their network of pylons, overhead lines, cables and substations. It then goes to separate lower voltage local distribution networks to connect to homes and businesses. Electricity generated from renewable sources has steadily been growing since 2009, which is honestly one of the better things that the UK has done, even though rising energy prices is currently a very pressing issue. This majority renewable source happened for the first time in 2019, when more electricity was generated from zero carbon sources than fossil fuels. One of the reasons, or even the main reason, why the energy costs are so high is because of marginal cost pricing. The electricity price is set by the most expensive source needed to make demand, which is often gas, even when renewables are cheaper. Gas is set as the wholesale price, so costs are much higher. It's called marginal pricing because the marginal source sets the pricing. The reason I'm talking about this is to give us some hope about the future compared to my last video. Now, what I just mentioned about marginal pricing was pretty sad, but I'm just being realistic, which is what we need to be. So in this video, I'll be talking about different green energies and solutions and what our future could look like if we actually try to fix the environment. Hello, and welcome back to my YouTube video, my YouTube channel. So, if you haven't watched the last video, go watch that and then watch this one. I mean, you don't have to, but I think it's a pretty good idea because it kind of jumps off from the last video and I feel like it might make more sense if you watch that one than this one, but you don't have to, but you should. Anyways, today I'm basically talking about green energy, our future, if we, take care of the environment, and basically just a bit of hope and, making sure that we can actually save this planet if we really try. So that's what I'm going to get into today. Our first topic is the green energy that we use. So, according to the National Grid, there are 4 main renewable sources used to power the UK, and that is wind, solar energy, hydroelectric, and bioenergy. In 2023, wind energy contributed the most in terms of renewable sources, and biomass and solar were very close in second and third respectively, and last was hydroelectric energy. So, as of today, according to National Grid Live, it varies, but wind is always the main source of energy. So basically, how does wind energy work? Basically, the way this works is kinetic energy is provided by the wind that spins the turbine blades. Then it rotates a shaft connected to a generator, which then creates electricity. The generator converts the kinetic energy into electric energy. So if you live in the UK, you probably know why this works so well. Quick guess. I'll give you, a few seconds to think. Right. But, the UK is just very windy, consistently windy. And that means that the wind can be harnessed quite regularly. And we have a lot of coastlines because we're like a little, island. So we have a lot of space for turbine farms. And in general, it has a low carbon footprint compared to other energy sources. And although I hate carbon footprint in terms of individuals, for companies, yes, lowering your carbon footprint is definitely good because I feel like most of the onus on you to lower carbon footprint and what companies do in terms of, contributing to, ozone layer emissions and stuff. I feel like a carbon footprint is a good way to track that and be like, okay, we need to stop it rather than, an individual deciding to, drive instead of taking the train because it's more convenient. But some disadvantages are that the aesthetics of a lot of turbines in a small area, but honestly, I don't care because it's saving energy at the end of the day. And some ecosystems can be affected and birds can be struck by the blades. So now I'm going to explain the second highest source that the national grid use in terms of renewables to you, because I feel like people don't really know about biomass, and I feel like it's good to explain it just so you know. We know what the renewable power sources are and how they're made and stuff. So basically, biomass is energy originated from organic matter like plants, woods, and waste. And it's considered renewable because the growth of the biomass absorbs CO2 from the atmosphere. And the most common method of energy conversion is called direct combustion. And that is when biomass is burned directly for heating buildings and water and for generating electricity in steam turbines. There are like 3 more ways to produce fuel from biomass, but it's long and we do need to move on to more, parts of this video. So I just wanted to let you know how renewables work so that you have more knowledge about how the UK works in terms of, providing electricity and energy, and it could be useful. So, anyways. So currently, to implement green energy, it's going to take a lot of time and effort. And many people would have to get on board with, this, which could be quite hard. And change is always hard, especially people who are stuck in their ways. To actually implement green energy in our day-to-day lives, it would require changes such as switching to renewable sources, making energy efficient choices, and it doesn't only require energy choices, but it's also lifestyle choices. And in this current climate with a lot of things going on, I don't know if it would take off as much as it should. So about $5.9 trillion it was spent on supporting the fossil fuel industry in 2020. That's about 11 billion a day. Jesus Christ. And only about half of the public resources spent to support fossil fuel consumption. It only benefits the richest 20%, according to the IMF. The majority of people literally do not benefit from half of the resources spent to give us power and heat our homes. I personally believe that the first step to try and make countrywide changes is to remove marginal cost pricing. Now, I did explain about marginal cost pricing in the intro, and honestly, it just makes energy prices so high, and it really stops people from talking about energy because it's such a sore subject at the moment, because it's just a lot of money. It keeps on rising year by year. The way of pricing makes UK electricity one of the highest in the world in terms of prices, and renewables have grown in the national grid, but the prices haven't reflected this change in more renewable energy, and that is what needs to be different in terms of the national grid and how we price our power. Another change that does need to happen is to update our current infrastructure. Now, there is something called the Great Grid Upgrade that's happening, and it is an overhaul of our current system, and it includes new or upgraded power lines, substations and cables to be able to increase the capacity that we can transmit clean energy more efficiently. I'm happy it's in the works. Look, I support anything which helps get more people more energy and hopefully cheaper. But there is one major problem with this, and it's that we, the customers, have to pay for this. Now, it works out a bit weirdly, I guess. It's paid upfront by Ofgem, and over 40 years, basically the cost is passed on to us through our energy bills. And it's just pissing me off because in 2023, energy companies like Shell, BP, Octopus Energy, there's 20 companies listed on this tracker. They made over 131 billion pounds in 2023. Surely you can reinvest a majority or even some of that money into improving our infrastructure rather than customers having to foot the bill when we're already struggling to pay energy bills. People are literally having to choose between food and heat in their homes. The number of people who are receiving emergency food parcels from Trust food banks has increased by around 2.21 million in 10 years. We can't keep footing the bill to customers who can't afford it. And honestly, the way that, the amount of food banks that open around the UK. It's just a matter of time before it collapses, just everything. But trying to stay hopeful here, because I believe that if we actually implement the right things, we could do good here. I guess that leads on to my next topic. How are we looking now? The UK has spent around £57.8 billion on energy transition investments in 2023, which is the fourth highest worldwide. And the number of FTE green jobs in the UK is 639,400, which is an 8.4% rise from 2021. Net zero refers to the balance between the amount of greenhouse gases produced and the amount removed from the atmosphere. And as of November 2023, just over half of the Forbes Global 2000 companies committed to a net zero target, which is promising. Okay, I admit it, it's promising, as long as those companies stick to it. Will they? Oh, as we've seen by the profits, maybe not, but hopeful. That's what we want here. Hopefulness. As long as half of those companies who have a net zero target stick to it, then it is good progress, but it is not enough, but it's good progress. And that's all we can hope for. I feel like, as maybe quite a few people know, the UK has committed to reaching net zero by 2050. And it's also committed to a 68% reduction in emissions by 2030. And the UK does have a good track record of emissions reductions, having met all the targets set so far. So that actually does fill me with a bit of joy that, you know, we've done targets, we've stuck to it. So, you know, the progress that we're doing, it could, you know, hopefully stay on the same track. And also shows that, you know, the UK government has actually stuck to something they've said. So I'm happy. But there are some things that just don't add up. And the previous Tory government and not keeping promises, they're the same thing. The same thing at this point, because things they said and not committed to is ban conversion therapy, cut NHS waiting lists, ending child poverty, reducing inequality based on where people live, end rough sleeping, and a whole lot more that they said they'll do and didn't. The most important, like I said, is reaching net zero. But basically, whilst they've met their target so far, they've made U-turns, and the High Court ruled that they would have to redraft their strategy because it's vague about how the targets exactly would be met. And also, the progress that they've made has been worryingly slow, according to the Climate Change Committee. The Conservatives have done a pretty poor job when it comes to protecting the environment. And other sectors other than National Grid do need help, like transport, agriculture, and industrial sectors. So, the Green Party... Right, I know people are like, oh, Green Party, it's too far left. It's too far left. But hear me out. Hear me out. They are, you know, the party is a good step towards addressing some of the problems that exist in terms of the environment. Their ideology combines environmentalism and left-wing economic policies. So some of the environmental policies that they, you know, want to put in is setting new air quality standards, removing donations for nuclear power within 10 years, and then invest that money into renewables and invest in lesser known renewables like tidal and wave power. So if more support can be, you know, drummed up for the Green Party, then more of their policies can reach mainstream news and they can influence maybe energy companies to make a change. But honestly, energy companies are, you know, this just money hungry, you know, they just take a lot of our money and then, you know, they're like, hey, you can pay for, you know, upgrading the national grid. Like, what do you even do with £131 billion? It just kind of just annoys me how, you know, they can make such a profit, but like we have no idea what they do with it. And if we do have an idea, like it doesn't realistically benefit us as individuals, I don't think. I mean, I will do more research into it, but it just doesn't feel like, you know, their record profits, it doesn't help us. I mean, like, it just doesn't fundamentally. What will our future be? Now, it's hard to find any sort of like solid informational predictions about what the future will be if we stick to, our environmental goals and introduce new greener policies. But from what I've said in this video and also the last video, which you should watch, I think I could, probably predict what it'll look like with some degree. Look, I've just done a lot of research, so wherever I say, you can take with a grain of salt, but I do have research to kind of back it up a bit, I guess. So yeah. Firstly, with more green energy being introduced into the grid and, removal of marginal cost pricing, hopefully, energy will be much cheaper, pulling more families out of poverty and allowing them to spend more money on other essentials and also have some disposable money to put back into the economy to help our economy grow. Secondly, if we do introduce more ways of renewable energy and making it cheap to install and run it, and I feel like more people would be open to the idea of adopting green energy, and that will lead to less cost of energy over time and contribute more to the net zero target. Now, lastly, I mentioned Elon Musk in my last video and about what he does, but he also does own Tesla. So obviously Tesla make, electric cars, and right now they are the best type of cars for the environment when it comes, when compared to gasoline and petrol. So if sources of electricity and the materials sourced do change, because, lithium mining and extraction is a very costly process to the environment, then it can be even better for the environment. Electric cars produce a lot less greenhouse gases and air pollutants than gasoline and petrol. And if the adoption of electric cars gets higher, then the overall environment will get a lot better. And climate change effects might slowly be reversed, but we don't really know that. Well, we have predictions, but I guess what contributes towards, global emissions and climate change, we can only see it, physically if, people actually adopt, electric cars, greener energy and stuff like that. We just really want to try and, actually save the environment. Some people care a lot more about animals than humans. I feel like that is just, some people care a lot more about animals in danger than, black people getting killed and stuff like that. Hey, look, if you feel like it's targeting you, it probably is, because, I don't feel that way. But, if the climate does get better, then we can also protect endangered species and, habitats which are complex, like the Amazon, forest. It's a complex environment. A lot of, weird kind of species and stuff live there. And I just feel like that is also a great point to be look, if we go greener, more animals will be saved. With, the environment being better, you can just enjoy the little things in life a lot more, just enjoying a summer's day without being boiling hot, having to worry about, well, you have to put on sunscreen, okay, that is important, but you don't have to sit in unbearable heat. You can actually just go enjoy instead of, the climate being rubbish. You can look at the stars at night, look at all the stars, be like, is that a planet, is that a star? Just stargazing without, light pollution, just blocking out everything, and you not really being able to see the stars and stuff like that. And right, taxing the rich, I wholeheartedly back it, but rich people do control a lot of stuff, and to get people on board with taxing the rich, you have to start at the grassroots level. You have to get the common man backing it as well to be able to be yeah, let's kind of have a revolt and be yeah, tax the rich. But I feel when you say that, people just kind of automatically turn off, and it's just frustrating. But if we actually do tax the rich, right, we can put that money into greener initiatives and actually help the environment. It is always good to make greener and better choices wherever you can, but obviously not everyone can afford to switch up their lives and be greener, especially now in a cost of living crisis and just prices of everything going up. The public are the people who can change things. If we get enough support for greener initiatives, vote for better people, vote for better policies, put the right people in power, then we can actually incite real change and improve our living environment and the world around us. In this political environment and what Keir Starmer is doing, like, I'm just gonna show like a list of just the things that Keir Starmer's just rolled back on since he got into the Labour Party. I feel like it's egregious, okay? It doesn't really look likely that this Labour government is gonna be doing a lot of things. And it frustrates me because, like, you just see it and you're like, well, you know, Conservatives are rubbish, Labour is rubbish, the Green Party is great, but then also you've got Reform UK on the rise, and it's just kind of like, whoa. I don't want Nigel Farage in power, mate. But hopefully the Green Party can grow and grow, because they've got, you know, a lot more seats now. So I just kind of feel like hopefully they can just grow bit by bit and, you know, start implementing some of their policies into, you know, law or something. I'm being hopeful here, but being positive. If a lot of the, you know, promises and the targets get achieved and the initiatives that are being introduced, then we can have a real chance of improving our future and making a future that our kids can actually comfortably live in. And it's not going to turn to, like, you know, WALL-E, Elysium, WALL-E, you know, all of those movies where it's just like the earth is just wrecked. So now we're just going, no, I don't want that. Can we just like live in this earth and, you know, eventually, you know, when the sun, you know, gets bigger and bigger, then, you know, that's just natural. But I don't want us to destroy it. I feel like the sun should destroy the earth, not us. But that has been my video. This video and the last video that I uploaded was part of one of my modules for university. So I did a course on transmedia storytelling, and I've used like some of the techniques that I learned there into these two videos, kind of like creating a narrative with, you know, enemies, you know, like corporations, energy companies who, like, you know, just suck the money out of us. And also, you know, the billionaires who just want to, you know, go to the moon, like Jeff Bezos, just like doing useless flights when he could be helping, you know, impoverished countries. Creating a kind of story where we can fight against something, you learn something, and it's part of like a wider kind of, you know, narrative of, yeah, you can go online, search up, you know, local groups that you can join, stuff like that. So, and also, you know, creating a wider narrative that can be used on different platforms like, you know, TikTok, even YouTube Shorts is kind of like its own little platform in a way. So I've been using those kind of like techniques in these two videos. So yeah, I've also introduced some new editing techniques, which has helped, you know, hone my skills and make myself presentable to employers who, you know, want screen skills, production, even just talking about like, you know, social issues, which also helped me because I've got opportunities where I've got to speak about social issues with a company called The People, which I appreciate and love them very dearly. But yeah, it's gotten me that so far. So hopefully develop my skills, I can get more opportunities in that kind of like realm, which I hope. And also learn about the environment and green energy will help me in like future jobs, opportunities where I want to work in green energy, hopefully help towards making a better environment, and just learn about like how, you know, green energy works in a more practical sense rather than researching it. So basically with this module, that's what I'm hoping will help me in my future development and my goals, to be able to both work in green energy and also, you know, make myself presentable to any sort of like companies that need people to speak about social issues, speak about, you know, Gen Z issues and stuff like that. So yeah, that was basically part of one of my modules, professional development. That has been my YouTube video. I hope you learned something over these two videos. Please go and watch the other video and donate to my Buy Me a Coffee page if you want to see my end screen. No pressure, but yeah, that's my video. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Peace.